Nina, you remember. A foot. Now again, when Mrs. Devlin said to you, when you're dealing with a sign, one note, one note on it, if you don't know how long it is, what's the best thing to guess? 2/4, because that's the standard length of singing, all right? That's the standard. So a foot has one note, and it's just 2/4. But if I put this on it, what is this little thing called? What did we say this was?
Cutter.
A cutter. What's the cutter going to do to it?
It's going to make it shorter.
It's going to make it shorter. So this is going to be one note of 2/4, and it's going to be one note of 1/4. So if I saw, for example, fa here, I should have put it in red. If I see fa here, I know I'm going to go fa, but if I see this, I'm going to go fa, fa, re, something else, okay? Now I'm going to come to these. What are these called? Daniel, can you remember? All of these are really the same thing. They have a little adjective in front of them, but they're basically, what are these called? What's this called? Just tell me the basic word for that. What are they called? No? Nicholas, do you remember?
Hooks.
A hook. And remember, we have a hook, and a dark hook, and a bright hook, and a brightest hook, and they don't do anything different. They just indicate the dark hook is the low notes, the low notes, the low scale. What is this? This is the low. This is dark hook. Is this the dark hook?
Yeah.
And
No,
so
that's the hook.
this is the hook, right? No, it can't be. It can't be. What is this? Look again.
Hook, dark hook.
Oh, this is the dark hook. Okay, I'm sorry. This is the dark hook. So the dark hook are the low notes of the regular scale.
Yeah.
The bright hook are the high notes of the regular scale. And the brightest hook has the high notes of the high scale, okay? That's the hooks. What do we call this? Yeah, Nina.
Pilot.
Where do you normally find it?
In the beginning of
In the
song.
beginning of a song, because you light a pilot when you light a stove to get your stove going. Sometimes when I go over to the community center, I literally have to light the pilot because the pilot lights go out, okay? And it's going to have one note, and how long am I going to hold them?
2/4.
2/4, okay? So if I see that. But I can also put a cutter on a pilot as well, okay? And that'll just make it 1/4. We want to understand that everything we're looking up here only has how many notes on it? One. There's only one note on any, if we see this on any syllable. Now we look at a comma and a stick. They look like a comma and a stick, don't they?
Yeah.
Almost like a walking stick. Both of them have one note. And again, I'm not sure what the length of them are. What am I going to guess?
2/4.
They're both 2/4. I can put a cutter on both my comma and my stick, and then how long would they be, Nathaniel? If I put a cutter on them, how long would they be?
2/4.
No, the 2/4 without that. Sophie? 1/4, okay? Because it's 2/4 without this cutter, but the cutter is going to cut it short, okay? Now I can also put a cross on the bend of my comma, and then I've indicated to you. Some singing books will indicate that that cross, because a cross is held, is going to hold it for another fourth and make it 3/4. Some will say 4/4, but I have to tell you, it's very hard to tell the difference between 3/4 and 4/4 anyway. It's extremely difficult. You just end up holding longer, okay? So now I have the cross. Where do I normally find it?
At the end.
At the end of a song. And if you sing any song, what do you normally do when you finish a song?
Hold it.
You hold it. So it's 4/4. Okay? Then I've got the stops. I've got my stop, my dark stop, my bright stop, my brightest stop. I've only got one note, but how long do I hold the stops? Sophie? How long do I hold the stop?
Right. You're right. Four.
Okay? Because think about it. See, what I want you to understand is you don't have to memorize everything. It makes sense. I'm going to stop. If I'm going to stop, I'm going to hold it long. I can't hold any note longer than 4/4, which is a whole note, okay? So it's 4/4, all right? Now I can take a stop with a cross. It doesn't make it any longer, to be honest with you. Why there's a stop with a cross, I'm not sure. Okay, here's the hook. And then finally, remember we have the bright, oh no, not that bright. Yes, Nathaniel, you remember what it is? Simple arrow. It has one note. Can you remember how long I hold it, Nathaniel? This one's a little hard to figure out. How long is a simple arrow? Can you remember?
4/4.
Very good. Okay? So I know that all of these are going to be 2/4 unless they have a cut. A foot, a hook, a comma, a stick, they're all going to be 2/4. Did I say a pilot? Unless I put a cutter onto them. But when I get to the cross, the stops, and the simple arrow, they're all going to be 4/4. Those are all the one-note signs, okay? But many syllables don't have only one note. They have more than one note, okay? Does everybody have a singing book?
Yep.
Everybody have a singing book? Do you need one there?
Let's go get
Yeah. Okay, here, let me give you one. Okay. I got several up here. I got several. You need one too?
No, I have.
Okay.
Nicholas and David can share. Here,
Okay.
give one.
I've got a whole bunch here. I found a whole bunch. I try to get prepared before we come here, always with the idea that we're gonna end up with 15 people here one day. Okay, here we go. Anybody? You need one, Nick?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right, we ready? Okay, guys, so here's where we want to turn. We want to now turn to, only thing bad about these blue books, I want you to know, Sophie, wait a minute, the only bad thing about the blue books, the red notes are in black.
There's more than United Postal Service thing.
They're what?
There's more than that.
Grab those. Here we go, Sophie, take this, because you're getting black notes there, and then you might be confused.
How many?
Anybody, what kind did you get, Nick? Did you get a blue book?
You got a good one.
No, you got, okay, we all right? All right, all the rest of it's okay, I think, all right?
You need one?
I'm okay, because I know what they are. All right? So guys, we want to now turn to page, well, maybe we ought to follow with this stuff. Let's turn to page 13, because that's the question you asked, Nick, before. We know that the notes, listen to what I'm saying, guys. We know that the notes are in red, okay? But we also have a number of other red signs that we need to be aware of what they mean. And the reason that Father Vladimir put this book together, I have to tell you it's kind of interesting because one of the books that's considered the most, perhaps the kind of Bible of Russian culture in English language is James Billington's The Icon and the Axe. James Billington used to be a professor at Princeton. Now he's been the Librarian of Congress for 20 years or so. But when James Billington wrote his The Icon and the Axe and he talked about Znamenny Chant, he put a footnote in his book indicating that an excellent way to learn this Znamenny Chant was Father Vladimir Smolikov's primer of learning this, which is this book. It's the same thing. Father Theodore put a little Western notation, but he cited that in his book, in The Icon and the Axe, which is well known, okay? So, first of all, I think all of you are understanding this. Watch what I'm doing here. Nicholas, you were pretty good at saying this. What did I do? I put this in my pocket. What should I tell you, right? What did I do with the black? Thanks. Throw it over here. So I want to make sure we still understand this. Okay, suppose I see this. And now I see this. What does this tell me? Nicholas?
You're just going to sing the previous note.
Good, okay? And I'll sing the previous note as long as I have those. Sometimes I may run into something like this. And this keeps on telling me, keep on singing equal to the last note that was sung, okay? This literally comes from a Russian word, равенство, which means equal. So I know I'm going to go fa, 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 fa. I didn't mean to have this here. All right? So first of all, on page 13, it tells us the red R is an equal mark, right? Now, as I indicated a little while ago, what we're going to be seeing happening here, guys, and let me just show you so you have an idea of this. We're now going to begin learning two-note signs. One of them, for example, is we're going to call a hook with a saucer. Good, Nicholas. That's a hook with a saucer. You're going to learn that a saucer is going to add a separate note, all right? So if I see fa written here, I know that I have to sing two notes. And I know that I'm going to sing two notes, and the second note, which is now shown, is going to be mi. Almost looks like a happy face, doesn't it? But the other thing I want you to know is sometimes I will see this. What this says to me, instead of singing each of these notes 1/4 apiece, I'm going to hold them for 2/4 because this is a slow mark. Okay? So the red horizontal line is a slow mark, telling me that I should sing that slower. Okay? We're going to learn this in a while, and this is called a conveyor. If you know what a conveyor is like a belt that takes things up very often. That's a conveyor, and it's going to tell me I'm going to sing notes going up. Now, I might know that I have to sing two notes here, maybe mi and fa. But very often, I'll find that a conveyor may have this note, this sign. It's called the borzoi, and a borzoi means I'm going to sing fast. So if I see that, that's right, it's a swift mark telling me sing those notes fast, don't hold them long, okay? That's that red mark. Now I'm going to see a hitter, and guys, I want to show you this. This is really rare, but I want you to watch. Look, for example, here, if I take a hook, now I make a cutter, so what did I make? How long am I holding that hook now, since I put a cutter on it, Nathaniel?
1/8.
Well, wait, I think you're jumping the gun. You're looking at the book, okay? Just the hook with a cutter. How long is it going to be, Nicholas?
1/4.
1/4. But I can also see this kind of almost a check mark or almost a Y. It's called a hitter. And if I take the hitter, it's going to even cut it even faster. And I'm going to get, now what am I going to get, Nathaniel?
Um,
What you just told me a minute ago.
1/8.
Now, and 1/8 is going to be really fast. And there's a couple, when we sing one of the Christmas songs, Father wrote these, probably remember this, when one of the Christmas songs, we go like this. O boya, moja sodjevaya sodjestre, da 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 da. That's 1/8. So I'll see a whole bunch of these where I'm really singing fast. I'm just kind of going da 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 da. It's really rare to see that. But that's what a hitter is. A hitter is added onto a cutter to make it really, really fast, okay? Now, I don't know whether I want to get into the breaker right now. I don't think I want to do that to confuse you. And I think I'm going to hold off on the turner and the hastener. Let's skip these red marks for a minute, and let's see the rest of the red marks, and let's actually get into the beginning of the two-note signs, all right? So let's look at number 25 on page 14. Everybody with me?
Yep.
Okay, now guys, you got to be careful here. Let me try to explain this. And anybody who actually watches this that you're filming, George, this can be a little confusing. Let me show you why, what I mean by this. If you take a foot, almost there it was, behind the blackboard. If you take a foot and you put a cutter onto it, you've made it 1/4. But if you take a hook, anybody remember what this is called? Yeah, Nicholas?
A foot or no?
A foot with what? No, it's a hook with what? Nobody remembers?
Keeper.
With a keeper. So this little mark at the end of a hook is a keeper. What does it do to the hook?
It makes it longer.
It makes it longer. It keeps it longer, okay? But neither one of these adds another note. They still only have one note, okay? But now watch what happens here. If I take my foot and I add this little mark, boy, it looks exactly like what the keeper does here, right? But that's not what it is. It's not a keeper. This is called a foot with an eye. Doesn't really look like an eye. And what that does, it adds a second note. It adds a second note to that sign. Okay? So this is a foot with a cutter. It just means one note, 1/4. This is a hook with a keeper, one note, 3/4. But if I put this little mark at the end of a foot, it's going to be an I, and it's going to make that foot not one note anymore, but two notes. All right? So if I see, and I want you to understand two things here. Try to pay attention to what I'm saying here, okay? Sophie, I'm going to ask you a question here, okay? If I see a fa here, I know that this sign has two notes, all right? It has two notes. And if you look at page 20, look page 13, 14, on number 25, what way does it tell me? Does it tell me? Oh, it doesn't tell me. Okay, that's not very good. I have two notes, but I know that the second note is going down from the top note. All right? So I know here's what I'm going to say about this. This is a foot with an eye. I want you to try to learn this. This is a foot with an eye. It has two notes. The notes are going down. And when the notes go down or up, the other note you're going to have is the next note right in the scale, unless something tells you to break that. So if I know I see a fa and I'm going down, what's the next note I ought to sing here?
Mi.
Exactly, okay? I know if I see this, I should sing fa into mi. All right, so let me just do this again, okay? If I saw this, if I saw Lord, and I saw a hook above the Lord with fa, I'd go fa, Lord. But if I see this above Lord, I'm going to go Lord, fa, mi, Lord. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? There are two notes. They're going down. And one other thing I want to say to you. If I have the foot alone, Sophie, try to do this. If I have the foot alone, Sophie, how long am I going to hold the foot? How long do I hold just a regular foot?
2/4.
2/4, okay? Now, if I divide that foot into two parts, how long do you think I'm going to hold each one of these notes?
1/4.
1/4, okay? See, I want you to understand the logic of this, okay? A foot by itself is going to be 2/4. But now if I'm going to put a second note on there, I'm dividing the foot in half, and I'm going to sing each one of those two notes for 1/4. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is a foot with an eye. It's our first two-note sign. Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing here. This is another little trick I learned over all the years. There's a lot I don't know. If you have a one-note sign, and you add something to it to make a second note. The second note is going to go down. Okay? It's going to go down. Here, I'm going to give you another example what I'm talking about. If you look at, here's a good example. If you look at number 26, okay, so here's my bright hook. Right in the cake, okay? I could have a hook there. It doesn't have to be a bright hook, but I've got a bright hook. Okay? Now look underneath. I'm adding a little half circle here. Boy, that does look like a smiley face there. But I'm going to call this a saucer. Now, two things that may help you on this. Normally, why do you have a saucer? Like under a cup. Why, Nicholas?
To ladle something with a ladle and you...
Okay, well, you have a saucer, but I'm talking about a saucer under a cup. Do you ever see a cup with a saucer underneath it? In case you spill down into the saucer, not onto the table, okay? So the saucer is something that goes down. But I want you to understand, the hook itself has one note, right? But if I put the saucer underneath, it's going to add a second note. Once again, I'm going to do the same thing here. If I see a fa, I know that the second note that I'm going to sing is going to be what? Mi. And I'm going to remember that the second note goes down because I've taken a one-note sign and I've added something to make a second note. When I do that, the second note will always be down. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay? So now we have the foot with an I, can have two notes going down. And we have the hook, the bright hook, the dark hook, two notes going down. And we can use the same logic that we used with the foot. So how long do you think I should sing each one of these notes based on what you know about a hook? What did you say, Nina? 1/4. Because the hook by itself is 2/4. Now I'm dividing it with two notes, so they're both going to be 1/4 apiece. Okay? Makes sense. See, a lot of this you can just think through in your mind. A saucer. I pour down into a saucer. I spill down into a saucer. And now look at the next one here. Number 27, and I didn't get into this one. This is very similar. It's very similar. But now what I have is a hook, but instead of having a saucer, I have what's called a turner. It almost looks like a check mark. But the turner is going to do the same thing. It's going to be two notes going down. Now let me try this, see if we can do this. If I have this, well, let me do this. So I see a sol here. What do you think the second note I'm going to sing on there? Sophie, you're pretty good on this. What do you think the second note I should sing should be? So, fa, very good, okay? Because I see sol, I know fa is under the scale, and the normal pattern is if I see one note and I've got to do a second note, it's going to stay right in the same pattern in the scale, okay? And how long am I going to do each of those? 1/4 again, okay? Okay, 1/4, yes, Nick?
What's the difference between a saucer and a turner?
One might ask why we need both,
Yeah,
right?
and I'll give you an answer to that. I understand that. That's a valid question. Let me say what I said the one time, and I don't know if you were here that first time, Nick. There's a lot of things, again, here, particularly before there were the red notes, that were patterns, and there were places where accented syllables, unaccented syllables, that we really don't remember what they are, just like the Greek neumes, a lot of people don't remember what they are. But I want to give you a better answer for that. The better answer for that is when you see the hook with a saucer, there is almost always a slow mark on it.
Yeah.
Almost always. And then the slow mark, I hope you understand what I said. Without the slow mark, I would be dividing the hook, which was 2/4, into 1/4 apiece. But now with the slow mark, anybody want to guess how long I'm going to hold each one of those notes? Nikki?
2/4?
Right. Okay? So you almost always find the saucer together with the slow mark, but the hitter doesn't have a slow mark, and so they're 1/4 apiece.
You mean the turner or the hitter?
The turner. And you watch, I'll tell you when you can particularly see this. Watch carefully, guys, and this is what I like when you stand looking at it. Watch when they sing the cherubic hymn. When they sing the cherubic hymn, you'll see a whole bunch of these, and then you'll notice that when we're actually singing the words, we're singing this way. See, the more you do these, the more you can actually look at the songs in church and say, oh, I really do understand what's going on here. And that's why we need you guys, whether Mrs. Devlin called it the peanut gallery. One of the reasons I'm so upset that more young people aren't coming is we need you to learn these. We need you to learn these. I noticed one day that Matthew Gregoroff, who's been in the church all his life, somehow I don't know why, I missed a place or a word, I was gone from somewhere, and Matthew pointed to something to me a week ago or so, and he pointed to the side with the Western notes. And I was thinking, oh, kiddo, you're following the Western notes. I really want you to understand, I don't want people following the Western notes.
Why do they have them in there?
Okay, I'll tell you why.
I think that's harder.
Well, I think it's harder too, but I want you to understand why. There may be people who come into the church, even like Mr. Taylor right now, who right now doesn't know those, so he can at least look at those and he can be able to sing by the Western notes. Or maybe Mrs. Sokoloff, who sings in the choir, really can't get her for these. But for the people in the church, we want to really realize, we want to preserve the ability to know how to sing the original way these are written, okay? And I said this before, once you learn these, it's really easier to do these than it is the Western notes, because they're more specific. You know exactly what notes you're singing, not in a general idea. I know we got to break up, you got to go. Okay, all right, let's do this then. I have done number 28. Just look at number 28 is what I just did. The hook with the saucer and the slow-mo. To be honest with you, you almost don't see 26 as 28. Okay? Now, it didn't leave probably enough time for instruction here, but let's do this, guys. The next time we get together in 2 weeks, let's make sure that we really do know all of the notes and we know all the signs up to number 28. And I think I'm going to make a little quiz. I'm going to put a little quiz together, okay? So I'm going to put a quiz together to see that we know all that. So really try to remember to spend the time to learn all of this, okay? You're doing terrific, right? I know you got to go, so let's finish up. Good. Thank you, George.